everything that I've said and open it up to Q&A. First, we have to be aware of ourselves. You have to know your limits. What are your hot button issues? How are you likely to respond to something when you are upset or caught off guard? And address that within yourself. Create space within yourself so that you can create space in conversation. Next, know your audience. Know the history of the audience. I was just telling Brother Dawood, I was at Grosse Pointe for the second annual Martin Luther King Day event. Second annual. Is the way I would speak to a community that's having an event for the second time the same way I would go and speak to a community in Detroit? No. Know where someone's at. Know where a community is at. But be careful not to stereotype it too. Because you have to ask. You have to do the homework. Keep things short and simple and to the point. Use personal stories to humanize yourself. Show empathy and compassion to someone that is attacking. Don't be defensive. Breathe before you speak and calm yourself so that you can use this cortex. Don't get into the frame of right and wrong. Acknowledge the other person's narrative and story so that they have room to acknowledge yours. Mirror the activity that's taking place. And finally, I really encourage you to look up liberal multiculturalism and to look at the history of racism and immigration in this country. Because having insight creates space. And everyone has a different theory of how to change and to move a discourse. You each have your own theory, or maybe you haven't even thought of it. So my theory is, and I've said it like a broken record today, it's about creating space. Expand your social circles. Who do you hang out with on campus? Sisters hang out with all the sisters, the brothers hang out with all the brothers, and they're only Muslim. Is that how it is? I don't know. That's how it was when I was an undergrad. And if you hang out with someone that's non-Muslim, oh, what is she doing? It's not an appropriate way of being. It's comforting to be surrounded by people who understand you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something wrong with that when you are upset by not being understood because you've limited yourself to one social circle. And it doesn't have to be about teaching, in engaging other people and having other people come to know you as a Muslim. You don't always have to get to know the dean first. You can get to know the person. It's okay to have lunch with all of your classmates and to talk about what was happening in class. You don't always have to talk about the 5 pillars and this is what my hijab means. Let your personality shine through. Create friendships. Because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. People are going to be more likely inclined to speak favorably about Islam if they've met a Muslim that they consider to be a friend. It's that simple. So instead of working hard, work smart. I think I'll end there and see if there's any questions or comments.
So very related to this, I was once approached by someone in my class telling me, just trying to convince me that Islam was a terrorist religion and that we were allowed to kill whoever we wanted based on religion. And I tried to address it in a certain way. I don't know if I did it correctly or not, but he was literally trying to convince me. I said, where are your proofs? He said, the Quran. And I asked him for the proofs in the Quran, and I tried to explain that it was very context specific what was being said in the Quran. But how would you have approached it?
It depends on the situation and the person. If it's someone I know or if it's someone I don't know. And to be very honest, sometimes it depends on my mood. So I was just in a lecture and someone, at the same lecture at the other university last month, and someone said to me, isn't it true that, or talk to me about suicide bombers. Why do suicide bombers kill themselves? And I looked at this person and I said, to assume that I am in the psyche of another person is to assume too much about me. I don't know what's going on inside of that person. I can look at the political context everything is in. We can try to analyze the situation and figure out what's going on. But to assume that I can be inside someone else's heart and mind and know what they're thinking and why they're doing what they're doing is to assume too much about me. We don't have to have all the answers. I mean, I only understand terrorism through a political lens, a lens of peace building and conflict transformation, and that's about it. I know in history, in terms of terrorism, most people use religious sayings and they extract them in order to provide a legitimacy to what they're doing.
How do you deal with the Islamophobe teachers in high school, colleges, and universities who are, you probably be in the class and the teacher is preaching that, or you're not in the class, but you know that that's what's going on. How you deal with that?
It's a really good question. So how do you deal with teachers? So now these teachers have this power and they are giving information out to a class and they're Islamophobes. First of all, what does it mean to be an Islamophobe? How do we know? Is it that they're simply misinformed? Or is it that they have had a bad experience? In situations like that, I've gone up to professors or teachers and I've said, you know, I want to know more about your teaching, about what you're, basically, I want to just know more about where you're coming from on this issue.
Like, based on my experience, the teacher was really good. Like, I liked the teacher, as far as the teacher is concerned. But then later I came to know that that's what's going on the other side.
So if you know the teacher, I would just go to the teacher and sit down and just, you know, break it down for me. I'm just trying to understand. Seek clarification first. Because if you weren't there to witness it, and you're hearing about it, then it gets like, it's kind of a messy situation. And if you feel like you enjoyed this teacher, say that to them. You know, I really enjoyed all of your classes. I want to sit down with you because I've heard some comments about some of the presentations in Islam, and I just want to seek some clarification. Open up the dialogue. But to go to this guy and be like, hey, you know what, you're wrong and you're an Islamophobe, you're not going to do anything. It's going to stop right there. You have to find more ways to open up the conversation and keep opening it up. And it could be that, you know, they were educated from a very Orientalist perspective, in which case you can ask if it's counterbalanced with any other forms of writing.
What about ones that are just so arrogant they're just stuck up in their beliefs? Like they won't listen to you.
Yes.
Because I've had sort of a bad experience before with my geography teacher, with the geography teacher a year ago.
You know, you find that professors who have written a book and teach from their own book are usually the ones you can't really talk to because they are now the supreme authority on the subject. But for the most part, your voice is a tool. Ask leading questions. You know, you can ask a question in such a way where you are also getting across your point without calling somebody out. But if it gets so bad where you feel like there needs to be some more open dialogue and say, hey, you know, and it depends if this is a high school teacher or a college teacher, you can refer to a department chair or head, like you have options.
Call CAIR.
Call CAIR.
Other options.
You have options.
Any more questions? Okay, then we're going to take a short 20 minutes break for Asr prayers. And I need two brothers who can guide where our Asr prayers are going to be. And then after that, when we come back, we'll have Haris Ahmed and the interactive hot seat.